Luna is back together, and it is a different world than I think when you guys left it. And I started chuckling because it seems like Luna is part of the story that a lot of bands had, where you had your early critical acclaim, and then it's sort of just slowly, the audience slowly disappeared as the band went on until, for whatever reasons, you guys called it a day,
Yeah.
and then you go away, and while you're away, everything happens, and new generations find you. And I thought maybe every band should go away after 10 years.
Well, that's probably true. Probably every band needs a break. Yeah, for us, I don't think. I mean, the live audience didn't go away. I think part of it, in a way, was driven by like a big record contract, where it's like every time you made a record, you were rewarded with you were given. I mean, there was you got paid. Let's put it that way. You got paid.
Right.
In a way, I think bands can kind of get in an unhealthy thing where you're making a record because you have a contract that says that it's time for you to make another record, instead of making a record when you're really good and ready to do it.
I don't know that part of the story. Like, what was the reason why you guys finally said, no, we can do this again. We can beat Luna again.
It was kind of the 10-year anniversary of the band breaking up had come up, and I guess that number kind of makes you think, like, well, it's been 10 years. And then also, actually, I got an email from a Spanish promoter saying, I hear that there's a rumor that Luna is getting back together. Is that true? And it wasn't true. I said to him, it's not true, but it could be true. Anyway, he made an offer. It wasn't going to like change our lives, but it kind of looked like fun. And since we all get along, I broached the subject, and everyone said yes, let's do it.
It's funny only in the context of you saying that when you have a record deal and there's money on the line and you feel like you have to do it, that sort of pushes it away. But when you go away and the money comes back on the line, then it's like, no, well, now it's time to do this again.
Well, that's true. I mean, that's another reason why I guess bands get back together, and if you have a following, it can,
oh yeah. I mean, there's no reason
you can make a link, but we wouldn't do it if we. I mean, it's kind of some people are getting like huge amounts of money that even though they hate each other, they're like, oh, we're going to do this even though we hate each other. Mm-hmm. It's not like that with us.
And I don't want to downplay it. I'm very excited that Luna's doing anything. I'm always happy when you do anything anyway, but especially when you can put it in the context of something that, a lot of us do have great memories of. Which, is it's sort of, I guess, why, and that leads into this record, which, I'm holding in my hands, beautiful little CD package here of A Sentimental Education. And so the first disc is all covers, and which, you've been doing a lot of covers through the years, especially you and Britta, and so that part's not surprising. But I did grimace a little. I was like, but man, there's a second disc of instrumentals. That means you guys are working on something. What kept you guys from doing the real... I'm sorry, not the real album. That sounds horrible. But what happened from doing an originals record? Yeah.
I thought this would be easier. I sound like both lazy and money grubbing. But I just thought after a long way away, this would be like an easy way for us to test the waters and do some recording. And it's true, it is easier. I mean, that said, we worked pretty hard on this record, but I think I thought it was maybe something we could do in like a week, but it isn't. We did it. We did it on and off over a period of a year. But it was relatively easy and it was fun. And then we're doing all these covers. And then kind of towards the end, guitarist Sean said, well, we can't just put out an album of covers. We should, offer people something else. Let's do some instrumentals. And that's relatively easy too. Writing the words is the hard part.
Right.
I think.
Right.
And also it was like both of these things, an album of covers and an EP of instrumentals. That's two things we've never done before. And so I don't know. I kind of thought both of those ideas were perhaps more interesting than just, the band's back together and they're writing new songs.
Right.
I don't know.
It does.
When bands reform, I'm always resistant to going out and buying their. I really like the Buzzcocks and Mission of Burma, but I didn't go check out their new records when they got back together.
It's been a good year for that though. Like I can Slow Dive, excellent record. Ride, excellent record.
Yes, I like the Slow Dive stuff. I've heard.
Yeah.
I haven't heard the Ride one.
So it is possible. But I'll tell you, looking at these instrumentals, it makes me have to, of course, pay attention to those titles quite a bit more. looking at Ides of March of the Trolls, and all I can think about is all the trolls that I see every single day on the internet, and it's like
I thought March of the Trolls was funny.
Yeah.
There's a classical piece called March of the Trolls, which I always thought was a funny title. And then it kind of has a new meaning today, trolls.
Right.
And then I did like a Wheel of Fortune type word game to that. Ides of March is, the 15th of March. It's when Caesar was killed.
Mm-hmm. Are the titles, all the titles, just like having fun? I mean, do any of them mean anything specifically to the instrumental piece?
Okay. No, I guess they don't. What are the titles? GTX 3.
Yeah.
I think Sean wrote that one, and he had an effects pedal called the GTX 3. I think it's called or maybe it's just called GTX, and it was the third version he'd done, something like that.
Yeah.
A Place of Greatest Safety. I borrowed that from a book about the French Revolution. And it means the grave, a place of greatest safety. That's what it is.
Oh.
That's where we're all going.
Uh-huh.
And then a couple of those instrumentals are like new versions of things that we'd done for the Luna documentary, Tell Me Do You Miss Me?
Mm-hmm.
So that one, Spanish Odyssey, that plays in the movie while Sean is like wandering around a Spanish town, drinking and getting lost. And same with Around and Around. That's in the documentary. Yeah, it is.
No, it's like I said, it's nice to hear. I mean, it's a nice tease. That's what I keep it, because I put it on a few times, and it is. Yeah, I sort of put it on in the background as instrumentals sort of happen with me, but it wasn't just a one listen and done. It wasn't like that.
Yeah, I mean, we tried to make them melodic. We kind of worked on them. And it's an interesting challenge to be like, well, okay, we're going to do this for this 3 or 4 minute piece, and it's not going to have any words in it. So you play a melody on another instrument, or sometimes we're in the studio working on something and it all sounds really great, and putting a vocal on it ruins it, because it takes away all that space.
Yeah.
Sometimes it makes it better, but sometimes it doesn't.
With the covers record, then, I noticed something interesting. Like, there are a few popular artists on here, and they're great selections that you went for, but it's almost like you went for the artist's least popular moments to take the songs from, which I don't know, was kind of like when I look at The Cure, like that first album, it's a classic, it's got Boys Don't Cry, but not a lot of people have that album. It was like a few albums later that they really, really started taking off. Dylan, that's one of my top 5 Dylan songs of all time, but it's from his 80s period, which is consistently looked over. That's not a big Rolling Stones album, and it's like every one that I went through there, it's almost like you went for the least popular moment to kind of take a selection from. Velvet Underground was another great.
Yes, that's their least popular album, because it's when Lou Reed has quit the band. So, in fact, there's no Velvet Underground members on that except for Doug Yule. He was the only one left.
Yeah.
But Doug Yule, a great talent too. I think he doesn't get his due for what he did. He came into the Velvet Underground for that third and fourth albums.
Mm-hmm.
I think you listen to this like vocal harmonies and this more complex chords, and all of that's obviously him.
I mean, you guys.
He wasn't involved when the band reunited.
Yeah, I know you're well versed in more than a lot of folks in Lou and the gang. I think that's what makes this even more interesting. Is I've always thought those records were good, and it's sort of you can't admit that to some people. You can't admit that,
right?
Without getting into an argument. But I'm really happy to see someone who really does understand the catalog kind of speaking up for that, because aside from the name,
I don't think I'd ever heard the Squeeze album, that's the name of the album they did after Lou had left, until it's now it's on Spotify. So now I don't have to. So every time I looked at it, I'm like, I'm not going to spend $30 to buy a Dutch import of this not Velvet Underground record. Spotify
works out for all of us.
I don't know if the Rolling Stones Metamorphosis album is on Spotify or not, but that's an interesting record too. It's only kind of a Rolling Stones album, because some of the tracks it's different music, like Jimmy Page plays on it. Or sometimes it's a different drummer, and a lot of the songs are demos that Jagger and Richards were writing for other people to do. So Walking Through the Sleepy City, which we do, is written for the Mighty Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that record anyway. I guess the best known song on it is Out of Time, which was, again, written for someone else, but then the Stones recorded it themselves.
It's just such an interesting selection, I guess, of the songs, and that's what made it fun, because nothing against popular covers. You guys have done those in the past too, but I think there is a sense that if it was going to be a covers record, that I really wasn't familiar with much of it, So I guess it's the best of both worlds to me.
That's what our friend Paul was saying. He's like, people aren't even going to recognize a lot of these songs. And in fact, I wouldn't have recognized. I mean, sometimes, I don't know. It's just you stumble on something. The Mink DeVille track is from a Live at CBGB's album. It was very hard to decipher the lyrics because he's dead, I guess. No, in fact, I think probably nobody actually knows the lyrics. It's like Louie Louie. But the song is Let Me Dream If I Wanted. That much was clear. That something about fishing. I don't know what he's talking. I read somewhere it's about like amphetamines, which makes sense.
Did any of these get a major overhaul, or do you guys just try to play them sort of straight?
Well, I think Fire in Cairo sounds pretty different. Mm-hmm. That sounds more like it doesn't sound new wave anymore. It just sounds like Luna, or maybe a bit like the Feelies or something doing The Cure. The Dylan song was just that's just hard to sing, because I mean, you mentioned it's from one of his '80s records, but it's from the Oh Mercy. Is kind of, I think the record that he made that people were like, oh, okay, maybe he's not he doesn't suck so bad after all. It was kind of a comeback. It was the best one he'd done in a while. Mm-hmm. But trying to sing it, I'm like, wow, I don't even think, like, listening to it, I had listened to a bootleg of him doing it and his studio version. I'm like, I don't even think he knew what he was doing when he did it. He was kind of making it up as it goes along.
That's one of those
the phrasing and the melody.
The power of soundtracks and everything. I mean, I might have heard Oh Mercy, but it was, of course, when High Fidelity came out and they used it in that one. And that's such a song that is a movie moment for me that it just resonated forever after that.
Right.
It's one of those greats.
I got to go watch that, because you know what? I've never ever seen that movie, but now a couple of people have told me most of the time is in the key scene in that.
Yeah.
But it's a great lyric. It's a great. So he's talking about how he's over this girl, and he doesn't think about her at all. She's like at all, except each verse ends with a line most of the time. So you think, well, actually, he's still pretty broken up about it, right?
Well, I dare ask, what happens now with the Lunar reunion?
Well, we're going to keep. I don't know. We don't know. We do know we're going to keep touring for this year and into next year. We had a rehearsal yesterday here in Los Angeles, and it was really fun, and that's kind of the nice thing. I think back to our rehearsals in like 2004 for the last album, and they were all just kind of like miserable and things were tense, but things are like fun. Yeah. We sit there, tell stories, do a little bit of rehearsing. It's good times.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear it. Are you up to anything else noteworthy for the end of the interview here?
Well, you know what? I do have another album recorded with a friend of mine. He records as Cheval Sombre. That's French for the Dark Horse. And it's an album of, and actually it's more covers. They're like Western songs from like old Hollywood cowboy movies. Oh, cool. He sings half of it, and I'd sing it. So that'll come out sometime next year.
Yeah, that's cool. It's an interesting take.
And actually, it's been finished for a long time, but I just thought let's put the movie record out first.
I'm sort of glad you did. Again, selfishly, I will say.
Yes. But so we'll be in Louisville. First time ever that Luna has performed in Louisville.
Well, I cannot wait for that, and I'll be there, and we'll be there. And well, Dean, it was nice catching up. Like I said, I'll
thank you for doing this.
Yeah, and I'll see you guys when you're here in town.
See you in a few months. Okay.
All right, man.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks, man.